Here we are.
Wonderful.
Yay.
Woo! Hello, everyone of all times of day and night. we're we're happy to be here. It doesn't matter. Just let us show up. We'll be here.
We're going to be here
Oh,
anyway. You might as well come.
that's right. Yes. And you are. Where are they? They are here. The Flow Live from Own School. Yippee! And we've got lovely people already waiting for this one. If you guys, we've had so much fun talking about the image for today's show. It's brilliant, and it's yeah, GP has this knack of finding the right image and then creating it. So today is all about the trickster. And I like this word. I actually use this word in my life. I say you're quite the trickster. But I love the way you put the twist on this, and you're going to help us to really be grateful and thankful and find how the trickster is helping us in our lives.
Yes.
I'm jumping right in here.
But first, before you do that, I did have to point out to everyone that we almost had to cancel the show today
Oh, yes.
because
Thank you for
Lisa had
acknowledging that.
not been able to find the correct earrings. And you realize without those, the show cannot go on.
That's right. I was like,
So,
I tried to pair this, so I did. Oh, I pulled it right out. That's not going to work, so then I won't have it. It's well, there you go. It's smoke and mirrors. That's what I went with for the theme for the trickster. Smoke and mirrors today. Today. But yes, this makes me feel like I'm playing the part, and that's I love themes. And so smoke and mirrors. This is interesting. Thank you. I love that when the acknowledgement of my garment choices and stuff. It's lovely. Thank you. And the smoke and the mirrors. This is so. I loved how in the newsletter, GP really wrote quite the piece of how the trickster will show. We have to invite the trickster. We want to work with the trickster. And this is my line I loved: to allow life to put you into circumstances that bring about the evolutionary leap that you seek. And you're right, because we love comfort, but we do want to grow. We want to be more. We want to have more impact. But quite honestly, do we even know how, and can we do it on our own? And this is where the trickster plays the role. So when you wrote that,
no, we don't want to grow. We
yeah.
want everything to get better. We don't want to change.
Oh,
Therein lies the conflict. I want a bigger life, but I don't want to change.
yeah, you nailed
As
it.
if you could possibly separate the two. I want to win the
Okay.
lottery, but I don't want to buy a ticket.
Oh, that's so true. That's actually funny and sad, isn't it? It's that simple. Like,
Yeah.
because there's pain in buying the lottery ticket, because now you're
There's a
committing
risk.
to hope, a risk. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
How does the trickster and risk, are they friends, or how does the trickster play the role in this?
Uh, well, the trickster gets you to take the risk, and you didn't even know you did it.
Ah,
I love mythology. I just adore all the images in mythology, and as kind of a natural born storyteller, I just gravitate towards those. And the trickster is in every single culture, every single one. The devil is a trickster.
yes.
In fact, there's aspects of the Christian Hebrew, all the Abrahamic God of Yahweh as a trickster. One minute he'll tell you to do something, and the next minute he'll slam you. Right? Um, yeah, Yahweh's a peculiar God. So, enough about him. Krishna was an archetype of the trickster, right? And you see the fool playing the flute, with one leg in tree pose on tarot cards. That's Krishna. Or the hanging man. That's the trickster, right? It's the coyote, which is that image on the front there in the Native American traditions. It's Hermes. Hermes was a trickster god, right? Who both tormented humans, but was also an intercessor between them and the gods. and it was Hermes who would guide people, guide their souls to the afterlife, and all sorts. So he had all of these different kinds of functions. And remember, Hermes was Mercury. He was a messenger. He had the wings on his feet, right? And that very same angel became that very same image became Christian angels, right? The wings,
Yeah.
they symbolize a message. This is a message from the divine to the human, right? Now, that message isn't always just a, telegram, right? Candygram for Lisa, right? Um, sometimes the message can come in all different forms. The message can come in, you just lost your business. It just completely collapsed underneath you. I experienced that a mere 6 years ago. Completely devastated. The divorce and a business at the same time, and I was completely nothing. Right? Had a little bit
Stripped.
of savings, I was completely stripped, right? 63 years old, completely, and you have nothing going on. And what I do? I went to India. What any 63-year-old man would do when he just lost everything, right? But that's the trickster. Now I could have just kind of trying to double down, do something else, but after that, I just kind of looked at it and I just said, boom, scratch, leveling it. We're raising. Bring out the bulldozers. And off I went, and I had some adventures, and I just really haven't settled down yet. I don't, this is as settled as I got, and I'm leaving, right? So the trickster shows up as the answer to your prayer that you don't recognize.
Yes.
Because you want it to come as the nice rose-petaled path, with rainbows and
VIP.
dolphins. And, the VIP, the golden ticket, right?
Yes.
Right. Okay, I'm visualizing everything I want, and then comes the cosmic 2x4, right?
Yes.
And
Love it.
and sometimes I'm visualizing everything I want, and what happens is first you lose everything you have.
Yes. Actually, that was the biggest question coming about is we often will do something when we can say, I've got nothing to lose. So in saying that, I wanted to dive deep on the I've got nothing to lose because the trickster God is, it, why do we feel more safe to make change, to go to India, to bet? Well, you can't bet anything because you got nothing. When we have nothing to lose, like nothing to lose. So you've lost the relationship, the job, the house, the dream, the money, and we think we've lost everything. So now we're comfortable in mingling with the
You have no
trickster
choice.
God.
You have no choice at that point. The trickster's done his job. You don't have a choice, right? And that's a nice thing. They say, I just, I've lost it all anyway, right? I've got nothing to lose. Oftentimes, that's just kind of a psychological trick. So, what are you still holding on to, right? That is not actually absolutely true until you've let go of the ego, because you're still holding on to a sense of identity. And that's the essence of what the trickster has to get to. It's got to get to your view of yourself. This is just peripheral. Take all that away, and you'll try to rebuild something else until you really get to the heart and soul of it. And the heart and soul of it is, who do you think you are? And I don't need to jump into that right yet, because there's all sorts of fun stuff to play with around the whole circumstances of it. But that's the gradual process. What's really happening is you're being stripped away of everything that you've depended on that has in fact been hurting you, that has been blocking your growth, that has been blocking you from the deepest realizations, blocking you from the discovery of the resources you would not ever know you had until you got pushed to the wall and you had to dig down and find them. Right. This is the hero's journey. This is the one of the most essential of all the mythologies. The hero loses everything. He has nothing. There is absolutely nothing left until and then along the way the mentor shows up. Right. It's a Merlin, or it's a Yoda, or it's something that shows up that begins to point some directions, and they acquire power. as they're going along, this journey. But the powers are not are the powers are not from them yet. At some point, they get the power, they defeat this great ordeal, and it's time for them to make the return. And along the return, they lose all the powers, all the secret weapons, the special forces, the magic wand. They're all lost. And so by the time they re-enter, it's nobody but you. There's nothing left but you. And you find that all of those great powers were actually in you the entire time. That's the arc of the hero. And it is the trickster that brings you to that path. It's the trickster that devastates your life, right? Is that an enemy? Obviously not. It feels like one.
Yes.
Right? When I'm wanting that that lottery ticket, right? Because it's my last chance, or I'm hoping for the big promotion, and then I get laid off, right? It certainly does not feel like the blessing, right? God, why are you doing this to me? And it doesn't really help to make those nice, cute little, sour grapes things like God closes one door only to open another, right? It's like,
But psychologically, we feel better about that.
Well, but don't, because maybe he isn't. Maybe you're stuck in a room. Maybe there are no moves. Now what?
Right.
Yes. We don't want to consider that. See, the ego always wants a way out of the dilemma, right?
Yeah.
Right. The caterpillar is trying to figure a way to not be in that cocoon.
Right.
But there's no butterfly without the cocoon. There's no resurrection without a crucifixion.
Mm-hmm. When you mentioned about the shields and the swords and the things, and you finally get there, and then you no longer have those powers. So of course I've got the video game going on in my head here, of all things. Yeah, we could slay the dragon, save the princess, and voila. So if our lives is that video game, let's just say, and we're like collecting all of our powers, and then we get there, but would we have got there if we didn't have those tools and those power tools? Haha. What if do we need them? Because maybe we do need them along the way.
Yes, but the big discovery, the hero finds that the powers are all within them, that they're inner resources that don't show up until you need them, right? They're not cultivated in advance. You don't practice your superpower, right? It shows up at the moment you need it. Joseph Campbell used to say, you have to walk and the door is going to show up where there wasn't a door before, but you have to walk towards an empty wall. In the story of Moses parting the Red Sea, he started to walk towards the sea before it parted. Now, it's a myth. The Red Sea did not part. Moses didn't even actually exist. There was no person. It's a mythological name. The name Moses means taken from the water, and the water symbolizes the unconscious, right? Yeah. So it is a mythological meaning. There never was a human character named Moses. There's no evidence for the existence of such a character. Certainly there's no record, and the Egyptians kept good records. If he was a prince, right? There would have been something about him, right? And he wouldn't have gotten in trouble for killing a slave. Which is what, killing a guard for doing something to a slave. He was taken in this. So none of it's actually true. So what's the meaning of it? He represents a higher set of laws integrated into the heart that gave one power. His superpower was the law, plus these miracles that he could do. And so he simply walked towards the Red Sea, and then it parted, right? We want it to part, and then we'll go, right? Or I want to see the $25 million yacht sitting over there that I get to sail across in, right?
Guarantee.
Yeah, the nice guarantee. There are no guarantees, right? When you lose the guarantee, you lose your life. When you lose your life, you find it. Yeah. That's how it works. You have to lose what isn't you in order to discover what is you. And this is the great trade-off, and this is the great fear, because we really do have to face that dark cave.
Yes. Yeah, the guarantee is a funny word to me right now because that's how many businesses will close a sale is but will guarantee it so you have nothing to lose. And that reassurance is so powerful that businesses are built on not even their sales pitch, not even their promise, not even the quality if it's amazing of what they're giving. It's that 100% money back guarantee that we're looking for. We need
Yes.
that. That is the closer, I think, for so many people. Like, there's no fear.
Well, absolutely. I've got the money back guarantee on all of my products, right? Everything that I
Do
sell.
you?
Right?
I didn't know that.
Yeah. And if anybody ever says I don't like this, I said, fine. I'm not in the business of getting people's money. I'm in the business of helping people.
Yeah.
And 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 if they don't feel as if they've been benefited by it, even if they have, right? And I know they have, right? Then, well, then that's the case. Then that's what you do. But it is you in a certain sense you're losing something when you do that because you're trying to make the way forward risk free, and you see that this is kind of a way we approach life. When you try to make the path forward risk free, you are really subject to being oppressed, to being tyrannized, to authoritarianism, right? Because you're looking for safety and not for freedom. And at this level they're incompatible.
Oh,
They are quite compatible at a higher level, but not at this level.
right. Oh, that was so huge. Okay. Okay, that's huge. Oh my gosh. Okay, there. See, I would never get my money back, you guys, because right now I am on air saying that yeah, you see guys see my advancements here, but I can feel that because for the last, I'm gonna say since 2015, 13 to 15, I really started the word safety was a big thing for me up until, and I'm gonna say this very moment, because freedom has been just floating around this weekend, and you're right, because a lot of people are just if safety is their goal, if safety is their thing, which I really did think, I mean, it's important. That's what you say. You've helped us to learn that
Yes.
our nervous system is the ego is there to protect us, so we're safe. We can't move forward without that safety. But really, oh my gosh, why don't we have a switch to freedom and not just safety? Safety can be a part of it, but safety isn't the end goal.
No, it's not.
Freedom.
It has to be made a servant of freedom.
Ooh, that was good.
Yes.
So good.
Freedom, the ultimate freedom. But the ultimate freedom is not what people think it is. It's not money. It's not possessions. It's not relationships. It is total access to yourself. It is a sense of well-being that depends on absolutely nothing external. That alone is freedom.
Oh my gosh.
And you can be free in a prison.
Yeah. Yes.
And there's a lot of people who have actually had awakenings in the prison who are far more free than the people walking around. Right? Because as long as there's a dependency, that's another part of the story of Moses and how he saw through his own dependencies. It's the story of him and the staff and throwing it down and it becomes a serpent. That whole experience he had on Mount Horeb, and by the way, the word Horeb, Mount Horeb, means desolation,
Oh,
and the word burning bush means mental turmoil.
oh yeah. Oh
So
yeah.
it's illustrating the internal state, right? That brought about the fire, right? The bush that burned but simply was not consumed. This fire that burnt up the ego identity and revealed completely different character. It revealed the I am as God itself, and not as something separate from it. So for Moses, uh, after that experience was literally the manifestation of God. Moses was gone. It was the I am. Right now, there was all sorts of characteristics. There was like, his ego got involved at one point and took over, and it was began to take some credit to things. And for that, he never saw the promised land himself. It was Joshua, but that's a whole other story because the promised land. The problem was there were people there, and they had to go kill them all, literally.
Yeah.
So the story does kind of have a dark turn, but
Which is how the trickster god, it does happen. That depicts it very well. Is like these things. It is a dark turn. You think like what we talked about earlier. So I think these show up. This the trickster shows up and has these things. What part of the I don't want to say what part of the ego is the trickster, but which of the archetypes will our ego show up in to trickster us, to trick us?
the trickster is also the sage, right?
Oh,
I mean, if you've ever seen some of the antics of Zen masters, you know exactly what I'm talking about.
well, I'm gonna need
Right?
some
The
help.
stick, the Zen stick upside the head. The things they would do to bring people to basically do a pattern interrupt. That would be the modern psychological term for it. That would just break this thing, which is humor works for that. There's all sorts of different ways to break that pattern of thought, right? Which is just that. Dum, 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 dum. It's just kind of grinding along, and the expectation is it going to grind along, and it's going to be a nicer place to grind along, and then comes the trickster and goes whack, right? And that can be a Zen master, it can be somebody you run across, it can be a life event, right? It can be an aha moment, right?
Mm,
Where suddenly, oh my
I'll take those.
god. Yeah. Yeah, well, they can be just as devastating when all of a sudden you've
That's
seen that
true.
how when you've seen you've been a dishonest fuck.
Yeah.
The people you've betrayed, the people you've hurt. When we suddenly get a picture of maybe we're not who we think we are, get a picture of your own narcissism. Um, that's the trickster. So
Mm,
and oftentimes we have to be we're walking in one way, and we have to run into something we weren't expecting. The trickster can lead you down a path to think, oh, it's going to be wonderful at the end, and then all of a sudden there's a cliff. It's like, what?
yeah. Oh, I think that's the fun part that we weren't expecting. And every day we wake up expecting something. We expect that we'll, maybe go to work. We're expecting that we're going to talk to somebody at the end of the day. We're expecting those things. And it really does shake us out of our world. But I love that you bring us back to that's how we grow. And we're not going to do that on our own. We're not going to go, I think I'll just for fun. Well, no, wait a second. Hold on. There are people who are tricksters. They every day push that envelope. They show up. They
Yeah.
say things that you don't expect. You're like, what? Oh, I just wanted to see. I'm joking. I'm tricking you. What kind of thing? Well, some people really are like that in their absolute showing up. What
Hmm.
are they? They're just helpful people. They're just floating around.
Yeah,
Trickster.
they could just be helpful people. They make things light. They can be humorous. Comedians are tricksters,
Yeah.
right? Because they lead you in one way, and they flip it at the end. That's what makes something funny. It's that unexpected thing that makes humor, right? But then there's also the manipulators, the dark side. The shadow trickster is a politician,
Yes. The shadow.
because they're not after your own good, and therein lies the difference. They're after their own. The ego as a trickster is only trying for its own advantage.
Yeah. So there's the intention and then there's the advantage who yeah, well, that's interesting because then yeah, we've put tricksters as people can be tricksters too because they're role playing out their trickster thing, but they I like that there's an advantage to it if we could just focus on if we feel that something has shown up in our life like wow I got tricked or wow I wasn't expecting that. Is it a mind game with ourselves now to say okay what is the advantage in here, is that the self-inquiry work we could do around it?
Absolutely, yeah. When you can feel the humility in that, just being willing to ask that question rather than how do I fix this or get out of it, or why did this happen to me. You go, whoa, what can I learn from this? It's a completely different attitude,
Yes.
right? The trickster, as an archetype, as a god or a goddess, they're their only reason for existing is for your benefit. The shadow trickster, the only reason they exist is for their benefit.
Right.
So that, the slick marketing or advertising agency trying to get you to buy something you actually don't need, and in fact the consumption of which on a massive scale is destroying the planet, right, is not the least bit concerned about you, right? That's the false trickster. That's the false god. That's the shadow. And there's a shadow side to all of these archetypes, right? Right. And the shadow side of that, the devil in its shadow side is what is, Christians are terrified of, because it's seducing you, not for your good, but for its good, right? It wants your soul, right?
Control and
Right.
ownership. And yeah.
Right. So it's not tricking you, right, to liberate you. It's tricking you to own you, right? Whereas the trickster is to bring you closer to the truth, is to deliver you the very thing you're seeking, right? Freedom and love.
Is the shadow trickster for their own benefit, its own benefit? Is it because it doesn't feel safe? And would that be the part that inner reconciliation is necessary at that point?
Well, now we're diving out of the realm of the gods and goddesses and archetypes into where they actually originate, right?
Okay.
The trickster in its shadow form is the ego committed to its own well-being.
Mm.
And so the ego committed to its own well-being is always manipulating things for its benefit, but won't come right out and admit that it's for its own benefit, hides that it's for its own benefit, and makes it look like it's doing something for somebody else. It's good. This is beneficial, right? And this can take very malevolent forms. Obviously, the politician is such a thing, right?
Mhm.
I mean, they are just inherent liars. They can't help it, right? They don't work for the people. They work for a very elite group of people that they have to make you think they work for you. So they're spinning everything as if it's for your benefit, and none of it is. It's a lie from beginning to end. But we do it to ourselves. When I don't properly take care of myself or give myself downtime, and I convince myself it's okay because I'm helping all these people and I'm doing this good work, that's the trickster. That's the ego trickster, because it's invested identity into being this giving person, right?
Yeah.
And there's the payoff, even though the cost is huge. And what it really is cutting you off from the resources that are going to feed that to the level where you'll do more with less. The impact will be greater with less, right? But it's got to break down all of the various layers of basically bullshit,
Yeah.
that we have subscribed to, that has cut us off from the fullness of ourselves. And again, I always go back to that. This isn't something you chose. This is the this is the way that the nervous system developed, right? In the environment of the childhood and trauma and all that, it had to cut stuff off, right? So when I use the word ego, I don't see this as evil thing, this devilish thing. I see it as a blind and mindless system that is simply acting out according to a set of programs that are no longer relevant to where your life is now, but were at one time, but it hasn't gotten the news.
Right. I love that. He's like, I'm not there yet. Yes, because they're still, like you said, it's blind to it. It's just running on autopilot. This is what helped me before. This is what kept me safe before.
Mhm.
And I think, and I'm feeling this now, is that this is where it goes, no, we're not going to grow anymore. We're not going to do anymore. And unless, hold on a second here. If but now I'm gonna yeah, confusing. Student
Wheels are
Lisa.
turning. Wheels are turning.
Student Lisa in here. Because is it not our ego at times which will allow us to take a course to grow? Was it not my ego that allowed me to start working with you? Or I don't know now.
um, this is really very subtle, and it takes a while for this to truly the subtlety of this to sink in, because you're making distinctions at a very fine level. It's very nuanced, right? And to the degree that I have come to feel a certain degree of safety, to that degree, I have some freedom of choice and action. And so I can grow. Once, if that growth threatens that baseline of freedom, it will then circumvent it, shut it down. In some way, it'll keep it from coming to fruition. There's a lot of people, they have permission to take a lot of courses, but you know the statistics on the people who buy a course and those who actually do them. I mean, it's unbelievable. It's
It
only
is.
like a small percentage that even start them, and a tiny fraction that complete it, right? And this is the books, every self-help technique in the world, because none of them address the underpinning energy and structures that are governing the whole show. So it's fine for you to sign up to all sorts of courses. It may not be fine for you to actually finish them.
Right. Is that an opportunity for this self-inquiry right there? Is why is this not? No, who is this not safe for, or why is this not? Because we don't want whys, do we? Why isn't a good question. It's got to be who.
Sometimes sometimes it can be, but again, that's one of those questions that has to be artfully applied. It takes a bit of skill to get to that why. If you're talking to the energy itself that is blocking you, the why can be useful. If you're talking to the mind, it's never useful.
Okay. Yeah.
Because the mind's got a million reasons why, and it'll go off and off, right? It'll go through 15 years of psychoanalysis and give you all the whys.
Because.
Yes, yeah, that's right. And it knows everything about its past lives, and I mean everything, and it's still stuck, right? Because that's a way the mind it uses the mind to not make an actual change, to actually not make a shift to the to the environment. So the nature of inquiry, it comes at different levels. Ultimately, when you're fighting, ooh, sorry. Very professional. When you're finally getting,
We're on a tight ship here.
yeah, that's right. When we're finally getting to that place where we're really beginning to kind of dig into the essential sense of identity, then we start asking, well, who is it that's actually afraid here? And when you ask a question like that in self-inquiry, it can be very confusing to a lot of people. And then some people get it, and then they'll ask everything: who's eating? Who's thinking? Who's sitting? And it can go nuts. Right? It's like, slow down, calm down, Jocko. and it's, but when you're asking that question in the right way, you're trying to discern the sense of identity, which is only an aggregate, a conglomerate of thoughts, feelings, and programmed responses. And the sense of, and like a computer or a robot or something, it has a very defined set of responses and programs, but there's no sentient entity there. And we have to come to see that that's the nervous system. It's operating very consistently according to programs, and so it has the appearance of a self the way a robot would, but there's no self there. The self is projected on it by consciousness. So when you ask the question, who is it that is blocked? Who is it that's afraid? Who is it that's suffering? What you're trying to do is to discern the difference between the consciousness that's projecting the self and what it's being projected on. And that's when you find that all of the suffering, in fact, the nervous system isn't suffering, it's just acting out behaviors. Consciousness isn't suffering until it identifies with the conditioning, takes on, wants something else, wants to be free, but the conditioning is not free. And if I've identified with the conditioning and not the freedom, I will experience the conflict that is suffering. Now you can see it's incredibly subtle. It is so subtle, and it enters into every thought, every feeling, every sensation, every impulse, every belief, every desire you have is in that space. And this is why it can seem to be kind of complex and difficult to trudge through it. It's actually not, but you have to have the right power tools to make that hero's journey. And that's why you kind of exit first, right? Going back into this place of where we're just consciousness and the observer before you start out again with your power tools, which you then lose along the way because you don't need them anymore. It becomes just pure love.
Right. It's reminding it made me think of self-inquiry gone wrong. It's like you can really take some different turns that aren't going to get you there, get to freedom, let alone everything. And I like that you just reminded us that we have to do a few cat snaps here in a second, but like they're being sneaky. They're being tricksters right now. But
Oh, cats. Oh, yeah.
oh, they're so
They are the very embodiment of the trickster god. Yes.
yeah.
1 minute it's like you're petting me, and then you're petting. It's like, what are you? And they scratch you. Right. One too many strokes.
It's
You should know better.
this is they embody trickster men. Oh wait, hold on. Oh no, hold on. I'm gonna get back there. Nervous system, right? So the nervous. I like that you're helping us to learn or remember that the nervous system isn't us. It's
Yeah.
it's responding
all
and creating
twisted
these.
around.
Right. Oh, you're doing one of my things when my chair hits the leg of the front of the computer stand. So this is fun to know this because a lot of times I get very personal with my nervous system, and it's a very intimate relationship. And I think it's me, right? I think, oh, I'm my nervous system. But I like how you just said that because it actually frees me. It separates it so that I can see there's a distance now between
Mhm.
who I am and what my nervous system is doing and why it's doing it and all those perfect reasons that I have to go back and rewind and then make notes on. But I like that it starts there. And I know that now there's some really good questions coming through and stuff. I'm gonna have to go back to them because around this time I like to scooch back because so much is said. Like you're right, it's subtle, but if one thing I can grab from that chunk that you just said there, all of these things are happening at everything we do. Like that's a lot. It's like
That's a lot.
it's a lot. I almost feel like, gosh, I've done a lot of work today. I just sat here and had one thought, but it really was like me doing a million things. So
Yes.
there's layer of all that.
Yes.
So
It reflects itself in absolutely everything, right?
yeah,
And that's the key. It doesn't exist in those things that are happening.
right.
An external invisible influence that's shaping them. So the self is not in the nervous system. The sense of self is holding it in a particular shape. So you don't really even have to worry about the nervous system and all of its functionings. If you start dismantling this self, this false self, this will automatically begin to conform itself to the true self. It's not the problem. Your body is the problem, the nervous system. Mind isn't the problem. The emotions, sensations, experiences, desires, beliefs, they're not the problem. Right? There's only one. And that's what ultimately it's incredibly simple. Right? And that is the sense that I am the nervous system. I am the body. That's it. Now, getting to the purity of that, to the essence of that, that's a bit of a challenge. There's a lot of obstacles that have been thrown in the way. It's like
Well, that's the trickster. He's off.
yeah, Indiana Jones, right? Right, trying to get the thing, and there's all sorts of little trick things coming out. Try to, yeah, it's protected, and that's the trickster too.
Yes.
Right? It's not going to make it easy for you to grab that treasure. Right?
Right.
The hero goes through ordeals.
I'm gonna watch that movie again. I haven't seen that since I was a very little girl, so I'm gonna put that down as a note. It's fun to watch movies that you see growing up, and then you watch them much later and you're like, wow, I have a totally different view of that because we've grown. We've got some
Yes.
gems. We've
And if it's a good piece of art, if it's a good movie,
yeah,
you can do that.
yes, if you've survived the trickster. So let's go back a little, because this, oh gosh, there's so much goodness here.
Oh my God.
I know, I get so excited. And first, we always like to hear the hellos and greetings and blessings. I think they're just so beautiful. It's a community, right? You come together. Um, oh, and Penny, thank you about my earrings. We're back there. I went back. Oh, the stripped of identity. I think this one feels like such a video game feel to it, and Zelda, and I don't know if that even exists anymore. It's
Yeah, that was a cool one though. My kids used to play that. Yeah, that was a
yeah.
cool one. Yeah.
Oh, okay. What's this fun one? So, Facebook user: we're born, we travel, we learn, we accept or combat and win, then pass on what we've and pass on. Oh, yes, yes. Then we can hand on. Can we? Okay, question. That's a good one. Can we actually pass on what we have learned, or is wisdom revealed?
What am I doing now?
Ah, well, thank you. There you go. Yes, passing on.
That's the whole point. That's the whole point. You can't keep it to yourself.
Right. Yeah.
You're not supposed to. The idea of keeping it to yourself is kind of our modern
Weird.
self-absorption, which is what a lot of self-help has done. It just made it all about me. The law of attraction makes it all about me. Oh, I've got $1 million because I've attracted it. You're struggling. Well, you're attracting it, right? Where's the we in that, right? It has to come full cycle, right? Because if those who have acquired the wisdom don't bring it back, what happens? It's a blind generation, and that's what we have.
Yeah.
The wisdom isn't being passed on. Our youth are being exploited, not developed. Right.
Yeah.
So I mean, it is pervasive. Don't get me started now. But you can see it is a moral obligation to bring it back and share it, to give the benefit to those coming after and not exploit them. It is the false one who exploits, and that's what we have. Where the world is full of false kings, false prophets, false religious leaders who are exploitive. They are not bringing back because they don't have them. They never gained the wisdom to have it, and so instead they try to control.
Yeah, I was going to say the control,
because they're morally bankrupt.
Yeah. In our own worlds, as we are the world, so it doesn't really.
I have a feeling that Facebook user was my friend Harrison.
Oh, well, we'll say hello, Harrison, if that is you, and if it's not, then we'll be surprised.
I'm pretty sure it was, because he loves the whole hero's journey story too. He's used it in his classes, so yeah.
Oh, lovely. Oh, another teacher. Then see, sharing the wisdom and passing it on. Oh,
yeah. Is that's what defines an elder, right?
yes.
The hero comes back as the elder. The fascinating thing is that when the hero returns, and in most of the mythologies, they become the king. They replace the false king with the true king. The false king is there, Scar in Lion King, right?
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Who kills, and is the usurper of the throne, and because of him the entire realm falls into darkness, and because that's what the king signifies. It's the center of your inner world. And the true king is banished, and Simba goes off on his journey, and eventually he comes back, and through all of his learning, through the different thing, and now he gets established because he is the true king, and peace comes to the land. We're talking about us individually, where that harmony, the true authority is now gained, right? Where we are fully present as the authority and master of our lives. But it doesn't end there. It must now explode outward and share that legacy. And as that does, you become the elder. The king becomes the magician or the sage.
Yes. And by the way, I just watched The Lion King. Oh Gosh, well, in this last few months, I bawled my face off. I was scared half the time. I was on the edge of my seat. I couldn't watch it. I had to take a break. This is quite the emotional journey, by the way. Those movies, they're really intense, and that is life, though, and this is how we grow. And I love recognizing the importance and value of that, and not being either exploiting or selfish, like it's just mine, and that fear, because when we're selfish, we're so afraid of sharing and passing on, that your whole life is now consumed by hanging onto this that is never yours in the first place. So.
That's correct, and you can even get to the extreme where you're multi-billionaire walking by thousands of people who are starving without any emotional recognition whatsoever. I mean, it can become morally blind. So it's it's not insignificant. There's a moral requirement that you come back and be an elder, to look after the next generation. It's a moral requirement, and if you shirk it, the penalties the penalties going into your future are great.
Yes. Yeah.
The karmic retribution is nothing to sneeze at.
And we talk about karma in another show as well. That's a whole interesting spin or take or understanding of that one as well. We've got okay, so I'm going to go through just some people have got to go, so thank you for coming, staying, leaving, going. And Andy showed up. He's got love the question. I can't remember the question now, but it's a good one. I'm sure it's time for a new guest. Surely this guy's he's being a trickster with humor there.
He's being a trickster. Yes. When are you going to get a new guest? Who's this old guy? Jesus.
The elder guest. And then Steffi's here, and then I feel this is okay. So I feel pissed off with my nervous system. I want to grow and live big, and every time I try, I get this heavy ache in my chest and so much fear, and I have lived with this too long. I want to direct my life in peace. Woo! Good. Whoa, okay. So physically.
There's a candidate for inner reconciliation. You're pissed off with your nervous system. How well is that working for you? I mean, let's face it, it isn't going to work. And this is the self-help approach. This is the personal development approach. To conquer it. This is the motivational, rah-rah speaker kind of thing. We're going to conquer this resistance, right? And it just gets bigger, right? And the amount of energy it takes to suppress that, which is what you see in these big star motivational speakers, they have not reconciled. They have dominated, and that will eventually run out of steam. And the kickback will be severe. Again, this life or the next. It's the way it works. You have to come to terms with it. Why? Ask yourself, why is it that when I reach for something gets in the way of happening? Now, you can either say, okay, I got to get rid of this and put yourself in a perpetual conflict, which then means you postpone happiness until you get the thing. You can never have happiness now. If you look at the law of attraction, it says you can't have happiness in the future if you don't have it now. You can't build a mansion out of, tubes and canvas. You have to build out of the right material. It has to start with contentment now, which will then manifest itself as contentment in your life. Right. But if we're in this struggle, what am I going to get? More struggle. And the nervous system is better at it than you. Remember, the defensive mechanism is an essential part of all life, which means the very first bit of life that appeared, I don't know how many hundreds of millions of years ago, that first little one-celled thingy has in it the need to survive. Right? Now, do you think you, with your little mind, saying, I want this, is going to have any kind of influence whatsoever about that, which is already decided, no, it's not safe? You're going to have to reconcile with it. You're going to have to win it over to your side. You're going to have to show it that it's safe. And the first way you do that is you have to become safe, which means you have to stop fighting with yourself. Mm-hmm. Right? I want to direct my life in peace. That's here and now. That is not when this goes away and you get what you want, right? That isn't going to do it, right? Every time you every time you even think of something you want and you feel the resistance, the next step is something really thinks this is dangerous. It is time that I listen to it. Now, if I can go back to what I was talking, Moses and the burning bush, that is exactly the experience. It even says in the narrative that Moses saw this burning bush, and he says to himself, I will now turn aside and see this wonder, why the bush burns but isn't consumed. This is what I'm asking you to do. This burning, heavy ache in your chest, turn aside, look at it, and say, why is this there and never yields? And guess what the voice right in the middle of that burning said at that moment? Moses, take off your shoes. You are standing on holy ground. As long as we fight it, Moses could have spent forever trying to put that fire out. Right? You can't put it out. You're not supposed to. It is what is leading you to the very things that you want. You think it's fighting you. It's not. This is so powerful and so significant. And it is a 180-degree shift from all of the self-help and personal development and everything, which is, as you all can understand, they do not like me very much. Because it doesn't work. You can't fight against your own nature. You can't fight against the mechanism that is convinced it's unsafe for you to have it. It will never let you have it. It has to become okay that you have it, which means you have to reconcile with it. You have to treat this as your friend. And it is your friend. If it hadn't been there, you wouldn't have survived childhood. You wouldn't be able to sit here and ask questions like this because you would have been dead. It had to do this stuff to keep you alive long enough that you could experience this inner conflict and come to the resolution of it. Right? You can't silence an eternal voice by trying to kill it. It's immortal. You can't kill it.
Right. I've definitely tried to put fires out with like a little cup of water at times. I'm like, oh, come on, I'm going to need like I need the hose now for this. But I know what you're saying, because in the beginning, it's just like, it's a lot of work and you continuously do that. And I think you just touched on the very next question I was going to say, is like, would befriending the trickster, invited in for tea, so to speak, be a way of understanding it? And yes, because when you do sit down to have tea, you're exploring, you're conversing, you're understanding, you're sharing that time with the trickster. And so when these things are difficult in our lives, to say, like what we talked about, what is the advantage of this, and how? But I love that also that but it doesn't matter if you even see the advantage, right, GP? Because if it's not safe, it'd be safe for me to have a million. It'd be it would be advantageous for me to have $1 million, but why isn't it safe? Right. So there's this thing like,
Yes, exactly so. Yeah. Why would there be a resistance to that? I want to have a deep, intimate, totally hot relationship. Why don't I have it? Well, what inside of you is saying that you shouldn't have that? Which means what inside of you has regarded it as it's safer to not have it than it is to have it.
right. Ooh.
It's that simple, right? And so that's the trickster that keeps, throwing obstacles in your way. It's the self-sabotage. It's the phone call you forget to make. It's the meeting you miss. It's right. I mean, for I I may have told this story before. There was a time I was living in New York, and for the first time I started seeing a therapist. I was learning about just Gestalt and all sorts of things like that. That was one of the phases of my growth that led to inner reconciliation. And I'd been to his place several times. And we were really making some progress. I was really beginning to see him. He was very, very good therapist, very holistic, right? Not psychological. And one day I was walking to the appointment, and I've been there multiple times, and I walked right past the place, right? I'm like a couple blocks down. I went past, and I turned around and I did it again.
Oh,
And I turned around and I did it again. I said, God damn it. Okay, I get it. And I said, no, we're going. And I very methodically went. And it took me 4 tries, right? It just, I was late. Isn't that crazy? Right?
It actually
Because
is
we were
crazy.
we
Would
were
you not
getting
have
too
stopped?
close to something.
Oh, okay. Because I was gonna say, wouldn't you have stopped and said, "Oh, okay, clearly I'm not supposed to go." I
No,
Then the trickster
no,
would have won.
obviously.
The trickster would have
Then
won if
that,
you didn't go.
yeah, well, no, then the trickster had to find some other mechanism, right?
Oh,
I mean, these things are so subtle, right? You can't, oh, it's the trickster, it's not the trickster. It's like something inside of me did not want this to be revealed, right? And so it started throwing these little obstacles in the way. My job was to see through the obstacles, right? Because unless I could see through those obstacles, I could get past the trials that the trickster was throwing out there. I couldn't get to the reward if I gave up too soon. And you know, sometimes we do have to say, I don't think this is for me. But sometimes you have to say, this is, I'm look, I'm walking past the same door 3 times, right? To an
yeah.
appointment I have that I'm going to have to pay for even if I don't go because it's too late, right?
Right.
Right. I belong in that room, obviously.
Right. Yes. Mhm.
But isn't it amazing? This is the kind of thing. This is the kind of thing that it does, and it's the protective mechanism. It's trying to keep something from being exposed, and you have to be very gentle and honest, and with okay, I get it, and but at the same time, bold enough to continue to move forward because ultimately you have to show the whole entire mechanism that it is safe, that the place we're going to is actually safer than where we were, right? But it doesn't know that yet, right? And it
Oh,
always resists change because even though in your inner visionary you can see that it's going to be better for you, your family, and everyone concerned, right? The nervous system is sitting here going, that might even be so, but I'm not sure I can protect you there. I know I can protect you here. This is the whole art. It's not trying to stop you. It's just saying, I don't know if I'm going to be able to do the job there that I know I can do here. So it's better if we just stay here. So I will throw things in your way to keep you from going there. Your job as the visionary to step into your kingship or queenship in the center of all of this is to understand that and yet hold this vision that says it will be safer. You're going to have to trust me a bit, open up a little, put a toe in the water, and check it out. If it isn't, tell me, and we'll retract. Right? This is not. Let's work together on this. This is how you become conscious. You're consciously engaging in this dialogue. If you're just fighting with it, you're not consciously engaging, right? You're trying to dominate it, right? So what's the difference between you and any other conquering nation trying to steal the resources? It's just going to meet with resentment and rebellion,
yeah. Yeah.
right? You can't conquer this territory. It'll always be bitter. If you manage to hold it through force, it'll still be bitter, right? You know, the Taliban will still emerge, right? Because you can't hate or dominate these things out of existence. You can't love them out of existence.
Yeah.
Love,
Amazing. The the toe in the water is really
make
helpful.
love,
I
not
like the toe in
war.
the water.
Yeah.
Yeah, because you're right. If you just continue saying, "No, no, no, I'm not trying to not go." That's a hard one to imagine, like telling my own self or ourselves that it's safer over there. And so many people stay in abusive relationships or bad jobs or um money financial situations where they're living, because they're like, I like that you said that it's not that they're trying to stop you, it's that the nervous system is saying, um I can do a job here, I know my job here, I don't know my job there, I don't know if I can do my job over there. So
Mhm.
then yeah, that's amazing.
Yeah, if you realize that that's what it is, you understand that that's the nature of the mechanism. That's what it's going to do, and that it needs to be compassionately brought into a place where it sees, okay, I can do it here. We're good,
Yeah.
and it'll do its job,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
But if you try to force it, the very act of forcing sends a message that it's not safe.
Yeah.
So it'll double down.
Yeah. Yes. Yes. And I think we just actually answered some. I was gonna read something, and then I saw a thank you, so I was like, oh, maybe that it was. So okay, let me go in order here. Hold on a second. Got the nervous system. Got the trickster. Was Thomas Edison talking about the trickster when he said opportunity is missed by most people because it is dressed in overalls and looks like work? Just,
You know, Thomas Edison is one of those characters that is fraudulent and hypocritical. If it wasn't for him, we would all have free energy from Tesla. He was a politician. Most of the inventions he didn't make. It was people who worked for him who, because of the nature of the way capitalism, intellectual property, and all that stuff works, he got the patents, he got the ownership on it. Edison was a scumbag. He was a very smart guy, but he was a scumbag, as was Rockefeller and Carnegie. And all the people in the book Think and Grow Rich were all scumbags. That book is a celebration of the worst characters in the world that have destroyed the potential through their need to dominate. So that said, I don't know what he was talking about, just except that he liked to spout platitudes that made him sound like he actually was doing something. And it's not that he wasn't an inventor and that he wasn't very smart and he didn't understand stuff. But the reason we know about Edison is because he was politically savvy and not because of his great inventions. Tesla outshone him in absolutely every aspect, but Tesla was not a politician. And so we have to understand that those are the false guys. The politician is the undeveloped, immature ego. It is totally in the defensive mechanism. It is all about control. It's the false king, right? That serves itself and not the realm. So the would have now taking that out of away from Edison, opportunity is missed by people because it is dressed in overalls and looks like work.
Hard work. Yeah.
Yeah. There's a need for us to act on what appears to us, but the real work is going to be internal, right? What stops us from doing that work, right? And to really be curious about what that is, not to simply get rid of what's stopping us so we can get the shiny object, right? But are more interested in the inner workings that would even make something not want the shiny, resist the shiny object. That's much more interesting. There'll be a forever a parade of shiny objects. But what about knowing you? Isn't that the greatest gift of all? Just knowing who you actually are, being aware of your own inner workings to the point where there's such a level of self-understanding that you live in a constant state of compassion and love. I can't think of a better reward than that.
That is freedom. That is true freedom. That's actually probably good place to end, probably. So I won't be able to go through all of them, but I do think we're okay to leave. Oh, well, this is fun. I'm gonna say this name. Is it Arjun?
Arjun.
Is it J?
Arjun? I'm not sure. Yeah.
They have a thank you, and I want to say that this person said, I just wanted to thank you so much for a video released 4 years ago on inner reconciliation. You have more impact than you will ever know. And I think a lot of people will echo that thank you. So this is what we're talking about. It is inner reconciliation. This is the way. And only 4 years ago, gosh, I don't know when it was. When did you release inner reconciliation?
Well, the very first thing I did was Just Allow It, which was just an audio course, which is still available, by the way. And that was like 11 years ago. And and there are still people who are doing it, who've been doing it for 10 years and are still doing it. And that was kind of the beginning of it, where I was really exploring this whole thing of allowing, right? And inner reconciliation. While I was doing it, I was focusing on the allowing part. It hadn't really developed fully into the whole inquiry and thing yet. And it hadn't gotten its name of inner reconciliation yet, either. So it was still formative at the time. And it was around that time, a little bit before that time, right around then, it's probably about 15 years ago, I had the experience with Smith. We kind of opened the door to that and started the dialogue. And then went through allowing, and it was like a few years later that I ran across EFT and found another tool for working with the nervous system, that involved touch. And so it was kind of over time. So I started putting out, I mean, the very first level 1 of inner reconciliation I did in July of 26, no, May of 2016, when I was staying in San Francisco after I'd just gotten back from India and Germany. And that's when I put together level 1. So that was 5 years ago.
Yeah.
That the very first one came out. And then I started doing some videos about it. And then, of course, I have the most recent one, which I think is probably the best, which is, 8 videos in a series of 7.
Right. Well, it's your own wisdom that you're handing down and pulling together. And actually, what's funny? I was going to share with you guys. I like to always let you know what's coming up and everything. And GP, I'm changing. I'm not going to talk about what I was going to talk about, because I think that the art of allowing is probably a good accompaniment to, if we can revisit that. And that is audios only right now, because I know we're talking about putting that into the book.
I think that was going to remain audio. It's
Oh,
just a collection of exercises and meditations and stuff. And it is really, if you buy the entire inner reconciliation bundle of all 3 levels of it, it's included in that, because that's where I want people to start. And if you're really into that whole thing, I have, the 5 volumes of Just Allow It.
right.
Yeah. I mean, it's like it's a lot of hours of meditation that can take you years to go through.
Right, but it's a good accompaniment
exercises.
too. Okay, yeah. So that's, there's always goodies, and we've got to highlight them when we're doing the show to say, okay, there's so much available and a different place to start. And each show and each topic that we do seems to land us at not a different. It brings up another tool that you've already done, that was already there. Best thing also too is to as have a starting point, like where. Well, we came up with a word for this the other day, and I can't remember. I have to go check it. But to find out where you are, like where should you start? You know what? Go over to the website. First of all, get to the website, so gpwalsh.com, and get on the list so you can see what shows are coming up and what topics are coming up. Join for Satsang, and then book your private session with GP. This is the best thing, because he'll help you find it. Like, you'll know where they're going to start, like where the best place to start is, because it's overwhelming sometimes. You think, gosh, I don't even know.
It is overwhelming, and as I'm sitting here thinking about it, I could train some people to help guide people into what would be the best place for them to start, because the foundation of it is what I've called inner reconciliation. But inner reconciliation has manifested itself in the way we do meditation, the way I do EFT, the way I teach the chakras, the way I teach even things like law of attraction, which I don't really focus on very, very much, because it's a perspective, it's a context. And I don't think I have any of the people that I've trained as coaches who put themselves out there as inner reconciliation coaches. They're something else, but at the heart of it is inner reconciliation, which gave them the context, which makes what they do better, right? Because they removed all the limitations. And I'm not out here to promote my brand, other than to survive, right? and grow a little bit. It's inevitable that things should evolve.
Yes.
Right? And I'm just trying to provide the ground by which they can evolve in such a way that they won't have to devolve, that they can continue to expand and spawn off other things in the kind of this infinite constellation of the manifestation, and we just have to throw off the shackles to making that happen. And those shackles they start here in you individually, but then they expand outward to the whole of the culture and society, which is now very, very shackled by very narrow points of view. And somebody even said, I've never heard anyone else talk about the Think and Grow Rich.
Yes. It's beautiful.
Yeah, I say that to people. Say, I've never heard anybody say that before. I say,
I have not either.
I've tried to read through it a couple of times, and I've never been able to, because I know the history of these people, right. And I know the whole story behind Think and Grow Rich and why it was there. It is a celebration of unrestricted wealth. Right, which means I can have as much as I want, and it doesn't matter how the rest of the world is affected. I mean, it is the ego on steroids, and that book is like the celebration of it. So for the first time in public, I've said it is one of the worst books ever written. It is one of the most destructive books ever written, and everybody should throw it in the garbage.
Yeah, well, you heard it here first.
Yeah, what can I say? I'm getting bolder in my old age.
That's okay. Yeah, you expressed and released, and thank you for that too. Because then it even if it even if that right there was the trickster that somebody needed to hear, and it caught them off guard, it was something unexpected. This is a great place to see if this is a place for them to grow or not. Yeah. Oh, I didn't mean that, by the way. That was funny. Think and grow rich. Think and grow.
I'm just wondering if Lisa's gonna scold me for being too political after the show.
This is a good one. I agree with these. This is good. I'm always so fancy with my words. You're more nicely polished, and my delivery would be just giggled. But people wouldn't take me seriously. This has been so mind blowing for me. Learning about the trickster god. It was funny because I was so drawn to that, and but now I have such a different perspective of it, and I'm going to let it all integrate and do things, but I'm still going to need a guy to go, okay, what about, what if? So that's why it's important to show up to these shows where you can either ask your questions, we get them, or send them to us. We can see what we can break down if there's something that it was an aha moment even for you. Maybe GP played the trickster somewhere along the line here for you. Or me, oh gosh. And then it's but let's leave it at that. Yes, we'd just love to hear from you, and I really am anxious to get people over to the site. There's just so many things. You can become a patron, which is actually super helpful if you do become a patron for only $15 US a month, because it's organized content. It gives you at least once a month where we have our, I want to call it VIP, but I don't, our patron session where we're on Zoom live, and you're able to raise your hand, ask the question, and GP can meet you where you are during that time. That's super, super attainable and easy to go there. So let's do that. That's our invitation for today. And we want to thank everybody for being here and all the lovely notes coming in, and love all the comments. Go. So GP, thank you for sharing this with us. This was exceptional for me. Wow.
It's wonderful. And it will be available on the podcast is not now flowing. We take the audio recording of this and it becomes a podcast. And it's available on Google Play. It's available on Apple. It's available on Spotify, iHeartRadio, every podcast service. And I also put it into the patron group as well. Yes. So you can one-stop shop.
I love it. I love it. Well, thank you, everybody. And we shall see you next Tuesday. And then we'll visit the comments after this. But yeah, we'll see you next Tuesday live. Well, I was going to say live. The Flow live on Home School. Bye, everyone.
Bye, everybody.